Do you think perhaps there is a sense in which the idea of truth has changed, watered down, perhaps even been abandoned? That you talk about ideals, you talk about honour, you talk about the things that in many ways our culture would once have seen as being integral to the character that's necessary to leadership. Perhaps it's been washed out of the system, and so what you've now got is a sort of moral relativism that says, I feel this way or that way, therefore it must be, therefore it is.
Well, there's
but it's very, very subjective. It's very lacking in broad appeal.
I think there are a few different things going on there in the phenomena that you're talking about. Nobody's really a relativist. Nobody acts as though there's no truth, and
no one.
So nobody's really a relativist. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think there is, as part of growing diversity and sensitivity, which is a good thing, there's a hesitancy or reluctance to criticize others. And so that could end up being a good thing. If everybody is from the same culture, at the extremes you can get a kind of a desire for, be it Sharia in the Muslim tradition, or Orthodox Jews, or conservative Christian groups. You do have communities that are so homogeneous, they want a kind of a moral law to regulate everything. And so diversity breaks that up. That could be a good thing. But what we end up with is the risk of the Tower of Babel. That is, that when there is no overarching canopy, there is no set of shared narratives, we lose a moral vocabulary that can sort of bind us and constrain us. And then people have the sense of what Emile Durkheim called anomie. So the great sociologist Emile Durkheim wrote a lot about anomie, normlessness. It's the state of affairs when there is no clear set of rules for how to behave. Some people might think, oh, well, this is freedom. I mean, a religious community would be so binding and constraining. I want none of those rules. I want freedom. But anomie breeds suicide and a feeling of meaninglessness and hopelessness. So I think that might be what you're pointing to, that I think people have a sense of anomie. Suicide rates are going up in America for young people.
And in Australia, yeah.
Okay. And drug addiction, I don't know if you're having this
Anxiety.
opioid. That's right. Yeah. Anxiety, depression, suicide, self-harm are going up rapidly for young people. We don't know exactly why this is. Social media is a part of it. We don't fully understand it. It really is just since 2011 or 2012, strangely, that these rates are going up so fast. So something is happening where the sort of the basic meaning superstructure or architecture is, you could say crumbling or you could say changing. I don't know, but it can be unnerving to many people.
Yeah, part of the reason that I'm keen to talk to people like you is to try and get a better handle on how we have got to where we've got to and where we might go. Because of that problem, I'm a father, you're a father, I've just become a grandfather.
Congratulations.
Young Australians, the research is really quite staggering. They don't feel that they will have the same opportunities in life that their parents and grandparents had. Yeah. And as I say, the numbers are really, the data is quite compelling. And it's really very concerning. They're worried about what we're leaving them. But to come to the two streams, to touch the first of them, sort of public life and what's happening. Here in this country you have a remarkable writer, David Brooks, and I sometimes have the opportunity to follow his opinion from the other side of the pond, which is what we tend to call the Pacific. And he wrote in the New York Times opinion piece in January this year, How Democracies Perish. And he said this: everybody agrees society is in a bad way. We might have our different takes on why it's in a bad way or how to fix it, but everyone seems to agree on that much at least. But what exactly is the main cause of the badness? Some people emphasise economic issues. The simultaneous concentration of wealth at the top and the stagnation in the middle has delegitimised the system. People like me, David Brooks writes, emphasise cultural issues. If you have 60 years of radical individualism and ruthless meritocracy, you're going to end up with a society that is atomised, distrustful and divided. It is concerning.
Yes. David Brooks is one of the most perceptive commentators we have in this country. And I think as a person who, by temperament, it's really not clear whether he's on the left or the right, but he's familiar with arguments from all sides. And he's always had his finger on the social threads, the social fabric. So I think he, as he says, he's on the side of people who put more emphasis on the social changes. I am too. Economic factors matter, but they matter overwhelmingly through how they affect our psychology and our perceptions of each other and of the legitimacy of society. What I mean is that as societies get wealthier, it's true that wealthy countries are happier than non-wealthy countries. That's a big effect. But as each country gets wealthier, it doesn't necessarily get any happier because we don't really notice absolute levels of material prosperity or anything else. We notice changes. We notice how we're doing compared to others. We notice how we're doing compared to ourselves in the past. And so the post-war era, the late 20th century, was a boom time for our Western democracies, economically for the most part. And there was a sense of expansion, a sense of hope. And just as you can kind of get like a compound interest thing going where hope breeds hope and the future's going to be brighter, when that turns around, it can sort of contract pretty quickly. And I think David and conservatives tend to be more aware of what is lost, of how things used to be. So I, too, am generally on the side of saying, if you look at the world, material prosperity, things are still going great for most people in the world, but something's going wrong with the Western democracies. We are losing our sense of trust, hope, optimism, trust in each other, the sense that we can solve our problems. I don't know what's happening in Australia, but at least in this country, the ability of the Congress to actually solve any problem we thought it couldn't get any worse a few years ago, and now it's worse. So we are in a time of skepticism and hopelessness, many of us, about the future of this country.
Thank you for watching this episode. We appreciate your support. If you value vital conversations like this one, be sure to subscribe to the channel there and also click the notification bell to stay up to date with new releases.